It's Valentine's Day, and Spider-Man leaves a rose on top of the George Washington Bridge in memory of Gwen Stacy. It's where she fell from and where she died as he tried to catch her, with tragic results. As Peter Parker narrates the story of how they almost did not fall in love. The story of Peter Parker is one of heroism, sacrifice, growth, loss, but more than anything, it is about love. In fact, I would argue that the entirety of Spider-Man's story is a love story. It's a timeless tale of a timeless character with relationships taking center stage over plot. He himself is defined by the three women in his life: Aunt May, Gwen Stacy, and Mary Jane. And no story has ever explored that facet in a more melancholy and poignant way than Spider-Man Blue. Written by Jeph Loeb and stellar art by Tim Sale, this is the saga of a young Peter Parker dealing with loss and his journey into adulthood. It's a coming-of-age tale told in an ingenious way, letting the reader immerse themselves in the mind of a young man who retains his sense of humor even through days of darkness. Peter interacts with his paramours Gwen Stacy and Mary Jane Watson, has a deep relationship with his Aunt May, and fights villains such as Green Goblin, the Lizard, Rhino, and the Vulture. Through interpersonal relationships and superhero battles, every moment is personal in this tale about your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Over the years, I must have read this story 100 times, and no matter how many times I read it, it never fails to elicit waves of emotion in me. I can feel the dull pain of Peter in the first few pages of issue 1. Washed in blue, Peter standing on top of the bridge where he lost the woman he loved. The words capture the desolation perfectly, with the art painting into life a feeling of helplessness that never fails to break me down into a sobbing little bitch. I feel the loss of someone I've never even known. That is how personal a story Blue is for me, and I suspect for a lot of webheads. The intense emotions and raw heartache of the story makes it so relatable to anyone that has known love. And you feel for Peter, you feel connected to him. Not often, but once in a while, you get a caliber of comic which comes out and transcends from pulpy sci-fi nonsense into something that is intelligent and very human. You could give this story to any person, including people who couldn't give a damn about Spider-Man or comics, and they would enjoy and relate to a lot of it. Although maybe not the bit about fighting a big dude in a rhino outfit. But that's what makes Peter Parker such an incredible character. He's just as interesting outside the suit as he's in it. Even though he's a larger-than-life character, Spider-Man still goes through the same life experiences everyone navigates through. When faced with a personal problem, Parker says he does what he does best: I go web-slinging. He uses Spider-Man as an outlet, and throughout this story, we keep seeing how much of a burden Spider-Man is to Peter Parker. He has to fight a menagerie of bad guys when all he would rather do is spend time with Gwen. His sense of responsibility doesn't allow him that luxury, to be with the woman that he loves, and that same burden takes it away from him. He chooses the greater good over himself, and life exacts a price for his sacrifice. Towards the end of the story, he tells himself, how many dates, how many kisses did I miss because I was doing this instead of being by your side? The writer and the artistic talent on this book convey that the role of Spider-Man entails much sacrifice. With that sacrifice also comes a cost. He tells himself that he is always wary after something great happens in his life because something good always leads to something bad. He understands the cycle of life as he grows from a young boy munching on cereal in his aunt's house to a man with responsibilities towards society. The time for childhood is ending and new beginnings are imminent. He tries to understand whether life is passing him by or is he living his life the best way that he can. The artistic duo has made a personal tale of a superhero who goes through the same emotions and life changes as any other non-powered individual. Peter Parker comes alive on the page. But haven't we all been there? Haven't we all asked ourselves if this is the life we wanted for us, just like Peter does? The duality of superheroism is usually covered in comics to the reflection of the hero and his villains. Batman's foil is the Joker, Superman's is Lex Luthor. But the duality of Peter Parker and Spider-Man is reflected by his loves. Spider-Man is the cool, adventurous, and sexy Mary Jane. Peter Parker is the quiet, reserved, and intelligent Gwen Stacy. The two aspects of his life are symbolized by the two beauties in his life, and he has to choose who he is and in effect who he chooses to be with. And Peter keeps getting drawn to Gwen because he knows, like we all do, Spider-Man is Peter Parker first and Spider-Man second. He's always the man before the spider. We're so wrapped up with egotistical things: career, family, having enough money, meeting the mortgage, getting a new car, fixing the radiator when it breaks. We're involved in trillions of little acts just to keep going. So we don't get into the habit of standing back and looking at our lives and saying, is this all? Is this all I want? Is something missing? There is much to learn from Peter Parker, because he retains his humor and positive attitude and at the same time has a depth and pathos that is relatable for anyone. Inside the mind of Spider-Man resides a character with enough history, emotion, and personality to last forever. When the last page of this exceptional yarn is reached, tears of understanding will drop, and through the course of this modern-day Spidey classic, Peter Parker's journey will have become our own.